I'm in my first year of college right now, so studying psychology with criminology. I'm not quite sure where we're going with it, but we're going. I have a puppy. I have a little pit bull puppy. Her name's Toffee. I love Fleetwood Mac. I'll play any song by Fleetwood Mac. We want to have karaoke, I'll win. I have two older brothers. They're both awesome. I don't know. They bullied me a lot growing up. But so yeah, when I was I think around the ages of 12, 13, I struggled with a lot of mental health stuff. I got diagnosed with OCD really young, so I mean that's obviously a really hard thing for anybody to deal with, especially when you're growing and your mind is still adapting to stuff. But I think it put a lot of strain on other areas of my life. I wasn't hanging out with other kids my age. I felt very isolated to myself. And around the time where I was 13, almost 14, it really impacted me and it kind of put me into a depression, you could say. You know, I had a couple suicide attempts. I didn't have great relationships with anybody, including myself, you know, family, friends. It's just me and what I was going through. And I think that's hard for anybody, but being so young, it's just, I mean, you feel alone. There's really nothing else you can explain it as, I don't think. I didn't have anything that kind of made me feel like, okay, this is what you're made for. Didn't have the best influences around me, and I was drinking. I was doing a lot of things I shouldn't have been doing. It must have been after Christmas. That was when I decided that I was gonna, you know, make my third attempt, and I really wanted this one to go through. And I had had a diary, and I'd written out the steps. I'd even written notes to people. You know, I had kind of had it in the works for about a week. Everybody talks about there's miracles and, you know, there's a God that loves you, and I was raised atheist. I never really had a connection to that or anything spoken to me about that. But I was like, okay, I'll pray. I'll pray for the one time, and it was like, if you're real, give me something. And the day that I'd planned to do it during the night, obviously, and the day that had happened, I was hanging out with one of my friends. She was like, wouldn't it just be so funny if we took pregnancy tests? And I was like, you know, like, I'm 14, we think it's hilarious. Yeah. There's no way it's gonna happen, I think it's funny. And I'm like, sure, you know, like, whatever she wants, probably gonna be my last time hanging out with her. And we're in her bathroom, and, you know, she takes it and she brings it out, she's like, oh, I'm not pregnant. And then I take mine, and I was like, you know, there's 2 lines on the stick. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm staring at this test, and I was like, that's not what I meant. You know? I'm like, okay. And it was just like this, I just kind of froze. And it was like this, so many feelings at once. You have something now. You know, like, you don't need to go through with this. And I was like, just so many different voices going off at once. That's when I realized I had to keep my life going. Obviously, when you're 14, you go to Google and I'm 14 and pregnant. What do I do? You know, and the first thing that came up wasn't, hey, like, we can help you. It wasn't anything like that. It was actually just Planned Parenthood locations that came up. There was actually a website that popped up for, you know, abortion pills. I ordered them, and a couple weeks later they showed up in the mail. This big wave that came over me was, don't take them. Don't take them. And I couldn't. I really couldn't. I opened the pack and everything, and I couldn't do it, flush them down the toilet. So I will never forget the words that my mom said. She said, there's worse things in the world that you could be than pregnant. And I didn't expect to hear that. You know, I expected to hear, like, what is wrong with you? And, like, she was like, we're going to the doctor in the morning. And that was kind of that. I have a little boy. He's actually three and a half now. So he's a handful, but I don't think I'd have it any other way. His name's Jamie. He still has super curly hair, but I actually had to give him a haircut. And they gave him, like, bangs, and he looks like Lord Farquaad now. But yeah, he has beautiful curly hair, he's bright blue eyes, he's super smart.
Do you regret flushing those pills down the toilet?
No, absolutely not. I was seeing a counselor at the time. Obviously, you're a new mom, you're adjusting to all these things. And I told her, I was like, I feel like an awful parent, I don't deserve this baby. And she was like, why would you say that? And I was like, because there was a point where I almost didn't allow him to be here. I saw that there was an organization called Let Them Live, and they were pregnancy counselors. I went onto their page, and they were actually there to help women that had gone through what I had gone through, whether it was, a 14-year-old going through the scariest thing of her life, or it was a 27-year-old and she was in a domestic violence situation. And so I reached out to them and I said, hey, what you guys are doing is amazing. And they asked me if I could help them with some counsel work. And I was like, I don't have a degree. I don't know what I'm doing. And they said that they'd train me, and I got to help so many women, and I got to see so many babies be born. I actually had a little jar that was gifted to me where I could put like a pink bead or a blue bead in it, depending on if mama had a boy or a girl. They say fear is the mind killer, and I feel like it's really instilled in pregnant women, especially young pregnant women. It's not possible, you can't do this. I told one of the moms I was counseling one time, she was about 5 months pregnant, and she said, I think I'm a bad mom. I can't bring my baby into this. And I told her, I was like, the fact that you're concerned about your kid's well-being right now goes to prove that you're already a good mom. I mean, you have 9 months to figure out everything you're panicking about. And I know 9 months doesn't seem like a long time, but when you're experiencing it, it definitely is. Say a lot of the times the problems that people are experiencing subside in that 9 months with adequate support and resources. If you decide to go through with suicide, that's permanent. But what you're feeling that's causing you to feel that way is not.
So you cried out to a God that you didn't even think existed, and He miraculously intervened in your life in a way that you never would have expected. You believe in Him now?
100,000%. He'd just done this huge miraculous thing. It was literally a miracle. I went from wanting to commit suicide to raising an entire life. It was the only answer that was there. There's no other justifiable explanation.